The universe was watching, 1,000 light-years away. In the deep metallic silence of the Vorr Dominion Command, an emergency signal crackled through the void, a transmission from the scouting fleet orbiting the blue-green world humans called Earth. We have visual confirmation. Native species are primitive, but unusually aggressive. The voice belonged to Commander Jirek, his tone confident, mechanical. The voice of a conqueror who had never known fear. Around him, cold eyes of his officers glimmered in ultraviolet light. Their scales caught reflections from the holographic globe of Earth spinning slowly above the table. "Show me," growled Archlord Cern, supreme strategist of the Vorr. His mandibles twitched with curiosity. "Let us witness the creatures who will soon serve us." The recording flickered alive, static. A camera drone buzzed low above a snow-covered forest. Then, motion. A human, male, rugged, perhaps wounded. Blood smeared across his arm. Before him stood a massive bear, a creature of muscle and instinct, roaring, furious. The alien officers leaned forward, intrigued but unimpressed. "Primitive," one hissed. "Soft flesh," another sneered. "Yet their fauna shows potential for weapon breeding." Then the man moved. No weapons. No armor, just rage and will. He didn't flee. He didn't beg. He charged the bear. The entire war chamber fell silent. The man's shout was raw thunder, a sound even the translators couldn't soften. He slammed into the beast, tackling it into the snow. Claws tore into his skin, but his arms held like steel cables. The bear roared. The man roared louder, and pure defiance made flesh. He was dying. But he didn't stop. Blood steamed in the cold air. The bear's paw crushed his ribs, yet he swung again, teeth clenched, eyes blazing, an ancient, irrational fire. When the beast finally stumbled back, dazed, the human collapsed beside it, laughing through his own pain. The footage ended. Silence hung heavy in the room. Jirek shifted uncomfortably. "It appears to be an anomaly. Most of their kind are not this anomaly," Cern interrupted softly. His dark pupils expanded, studying the frozen final frame, a dying man grinning at the beast he refused to fear. "This is not anomaly. This is pattern." Across the table, the younger officers exchanged looks. Cern rose, walking slowly toward the projection. His talons clicked against the metallic floor, echoing. "They are irrational. They fight even when victory is impossible. That makes them dangerous." "Dangerous?" Jirek tilted his head. "Their weapons are primitive. Their starflight non-existent. We have crushed empires older than their species." Cern didn't answer. He touched the image, the human's frozen face. "The last time I saw such eyes," he whispered, "was before the Thurian extinction. Those creatures burned their own oceans rather than surrender." A pause. Then, "Commander, prepare the invasion fleet. I want this world taken swiftly before they learn what they truly are." Jirek nodded. "As you command, Archlord. The fleet shall arrive within 6 of their lunar cycles." As the transmission concluded, the image of Earth hovered in the dim chamber, serene and unsuspecting. Yet as the Vorr ships began their slow, silent movement toward the blue planet, something stirred on Earth, something ancient, buried deep in human instinct, a whisper beneath their skies, a pulse within their history, the kind of madness that built civilizations out of ash. On Earth, far below that same winter sky, Captain Riley Voss stood at a radar station in Alaska, frowning at a strange blip appearing near orbit. "Another satellite, maybe?" she muttered. Her partner shook his head. "No, that's not one of ours. It's too big." Riley leaned closer to the screen. The signal was pulsing, rhythmic, deliberate. Almost like a heartbeat. She didn't know it yet. But that blip would change everything. Above them, in the darkness between stars, the Vorr armada sliced through the void. 30 ships strong, enough firepower to scorch continents. They expected obedience. They would find defiance. And somewhere, deep within the Vorr flagship, Archlord Cern whispered to himself, "Let us see how long their courage lasts, when the sky itself falls." The sky over Alaska broke open. It began with a shimmer, like the air itself bending, twisting, whispering secrets. Then sound, a low hum that rolled through the clouds deep enough to rattle bones. Captain Riley Voss stared through the glass of the control tower, her breath fogging the window. "That's no aurora," she whispered. The radar screamed. Dozens of contacts moving in formation. Altitude suborbital. Velocity impossible, Jesus. "We're being invaded," The words left her mouth before reason could catch them. But instinct, that quiet human sense of danger older than language, told her she was right. Far above, the Vorr armada descended like a curtain of stars turned hostile. Commander Zirek stood on the bridge of the Vorr's edge, mandibles flexing with cold satisfaction. Deploy scouts. Record their defenses. Neutralize resistance. He looked toward Archlord Cern, who stood motionless before the viewing pane, eyes fixed on the rotating earth below. You seem unsettled, my lord, Zirek noted. I am curious, Cern murmured. Curious how a world of prey breeds such madness, he gestured. Begin transmission. Let them know who rules them now. The first alien broadcast hit every screen on Earth. Phones, televisions, satellites, even old radio bands. A voice, mechanical yet resonant, filled the air. People of Earth, we are the Vorr Dominion. You will lay down your arms and surrender your skies. Resistance will bring extinction. Compliance will bring survival. The message repeated in every language simultaneously. For 30 seconds, there was only stunned silence across the planet. Then came the noise, the human noise. Reporters yelling into cameras. Civilians flooding social media. Soldiers shouting orders. Panic mixed with disbelief. Fear tangled with rage. And somewhere amid the chaos, a quiet, reckless decision was made. Humanity would fight. In the Pentagon, a war council convened. Generals, scientists, presidents, faces drawn, eyes sharp. They've jammed our satellites, a tech officer reported. Then we fight blind, growled General Monroe. We've done worse. Someone laughed, hollow and trembling. We're ants to them, sir. Monroe's reply was calm, almost gentle. Ants bite. Meanwhile, in orbit, the Vorr encountered something unexpected. Their scanning drones had expected surface-to-air missiles, primitive jets, weak plasma readings. Instead, they found a storm, electromagnetic chaos. The human world bristled with interference, radar noise, unpredictable energy surges. Zirek snarled. They scramble our sensors deliberately. No, Cern replied softly. They do not know we are here. They simply live in chaos, and chaos blinds perfection. That thought lingered. For the first time, the Vorr realized Earth itself was a fortress built on unpredictability. Below, in the freezing wind of Alaska, Riley Voss received orders to lead a recon team toward an object that had crashed near the Yukon border, one of the Vorr scout pods. Her breath steamed in the cold as she adjusted her rifle. You believe this thing's hostile? Her partner, Corporal Reeves, shrugged. You saw the broadcast. They moved through snow and shadow, their boots crunching softly until the forest opened into a clearing. And there it was, a metallic sphere half buried in ice, steaming faintly. It pulsed with an eerie violet glow. Command, we found it, Riley said into her radio. No movement. Approaching for inspection. Static. Then a whisper of movement behind them, something fast. Something wrong. The snow burst open. A Vorr scout, 6 limbs, shimmering armor, eyes burning like molten glass. It leapt forward with a screech, striking Reeves aside with bone-snapping force. Riley fired, once, twice, useless. The bullets ricocheted like rain off steel. The creature pinned her, hissing. A blade unfolded from its wrist. Its voice rasped, surrender flesh, Riley spat blood. Not today. She drove a combat knife into the creature's eye. The blade snapped, but so did something in her. Rage took over. She smashed the creature's head against the ice until it stopped moving. Breathing hard, she collapsed beside the wreckage. Her hands shook. She was alive, barely, above her. A satellite camera caught every moment, and miles above that, on the Vorr flagship, the live feed played silently before Archlord Cern and his officers. No one spoke. She killed a scout, Zirek said slowly. With a knife. Cern's expression darkened. Send a message to all ships. Increase caution. They are not prey, they are something else. As the Vorr fleet adjusted their orbit, Cern turned away from the screen. His reflection stared back at him, eyes full of something new, not fear but doubt. In the reflection, the dying human woman still knelt beside her kill, and behind her, the endless wilderness of a planet that refused to kneel. Cern whispered, Perhaps conquest will not teach them submission. Perhaps it will teach us something far worse. The invasion began before dawn. The first strike came over the Pacific, invisible beams slicing the sky, burning the atmosphere into glass. Cities blinked out like dying stars. Yet for every city that fell, 1,000 cameras turned upward, recording the impossible. The Vorr expected submission. They got something else, witnesses. Every destruction, every explosion, every scream was seen, shared, echoed. Humanity did not hide. Humanity watched. And in that watching, something ancient stirred again. Inside Vorr command ship Eclipsera, Commander Zirek studied the holographic feed. Chaos. Fire, confusion. They panic as expected, he said. By tomorrow, their networks will collapse. But Archlord CERN didn't answer. He was watching another feed. Shaky footage, handheld from a human's perspective. A soldier recording through smoke, shouting into a camera, blood running down his cheek. They think we'll kneel? Nah, tell 'em. We bite harder than we bleed. Then static. CERN felt it, that tone. Not strategy, not logic, something primal. Pause playback, he ordered. The feed froze on the soldier's face. A man on the edge of death yet grinning. The same grin from the bear fight. That same impossible fire. CERN turned to Zirek. Every time they fall, they laugh. Explain that. Zirek hesitated. Perhaps madness, my lord. The collapse of reason under fear. Or perhaps reason is their weakness, CERN murmured, and madness their strength. On Earth, humanity rallied. The world's militaries, long divided, fused overnight. Chaos forced unity. Fighter jets flew with no command link, operating on sight and instinct. Pilots described the sky as alive with fire. In the ruins of Los Angeles, a platoon of Marines fought alongside civilians, drones, even firefighters, anyone who could hold a weapon. They called it the Wall of Smoke. No one expected to win. They just refused to stop. In the midst of that battle, a Vorr squad landed, elite hunters, armed with cutting-edge weapons, their armor gleaming. They marched through the burning streets, scanning heat signatures. Suddenly, one paused. Movement, upper floor. They fired a plasma bolt. The building erupted, but through the dust, a figure charged out. A firefighter wielding only an axe. He swung once, missed. The aliens laughed, a strange chittering sound. Then a second figure emerged, a child dragging a fallen rifle. She tossed it to the man. He fired wildly, shouting something the translators couldn't process. Not language, emotion. When the Vorr squad was finally neutralized, the man collapsed to his knees, clutching the child. Satellite footage caught it. It spread everywhere, the firefighter and the girl standing before the wreckage of gods. By the third day, human resistance wasn't strategy. It was infection. The Vorr could destroy cities, but not spirit. They realized too late, humans didn't fight for victory. They fought for meaning. Every death was a message. Every stand, a story. And stories CERN began to realize could travel faster than light. Within the Vorr command chamber, tension cracked like glass. Zirek slammed a claw against the table. They're suicidal. Entire divisions refuse surrender even when surrounded. CERN's gaze stayed fixed on the Earth. Then they do not fight to live. They fight to matter. We can break bones, not belief. Then we annihilate them, Zirek hissed. Reduce their surface to ash. CERN's eyes narrowed. And what if the galaxy sees? What if our enemies witness us fearing them? The commander froze. There it was again in that word. Fear. The Vorr Dominion, conquerors of 50 worlds, had never spoken it aloud. Yet the thought hung heavy in every heart. That night, in the ruins of Alaska, Captain Riley Voss awoke to the sound of thunder. Not storm, bombardment. She crawled from the wreckage of her station, clutching a broken radio. Command, this is Voss. Anyone alive? Static, then faintly, a voice. This is Southern Command. You're not alone. They hit New York, Tokyo, Berlin, but people are still fighting everywhere. Riley laughed through cracked lips. Then they'll have to kill every last one of us. A pause. Then the voice whispered, that's exactly what scares them. In orbit, the Vorr fleet began experiencing strange failures. Drones malfunctioned, signals corrupted, navigation scrambled by human interference. But no one knew how. CERN studied the anomaly. Their networks are broken, yet somehow they use the noise to hide their attacks, Zirek snarled. They are improvising animals. CERN smiled faintly. Perhaps, but an improvising animal invented fire. He turned back to the screen, where 1,000 fires lit the earth below, not defeat, but defiance made visible. Let us see, he said softly. What happens when the fire looks back, the fourth day of invasion dawned red, not from sunrise, but from the sky itself bleeding plasma. The Vorr ground troops had arrived. They fell like silver rain, drop pods piercing clouds, embedding deep into cities, forests, deserts. Each pod split open, releasing soldiers of gleaming armor and empty mercy. Earth trembled, but so did the Vorr. On board the flagship Eclipsera, Archlord Cern paced before the viewing glass, watching his legions descend. His eyes flicked over holographic reports. Resistance levels escalating. Casualties increasing. Morale. Unknown, he hissed. Explain. The analyst's voice quivered. Their emotional data is erratic, my lord. There is no correlation between losses and retreat. In fact, high casualties appear to encourage further resistance. Cern's jaw tightened. Encourage? Yes, Archlord. They record their deaths and broadcast them. That single sentence cut the silence open. Broadcast. The humans were not merely dying. They were performing defiance. Every act of courage, every hopeless stand was streamed across their networks, multiplied by millions. To the Vorr, death was final. To humans, death was propaganda. In New Delhi, Vorr mechs thundered down boulevards once filled with color. Buildings toppled. But on every rooftop, a flicker of movement. People holding cameras, phones, even broken lenses streaming live. A man shouted through smoke, "They can take the city, not the story." The broadcast spread. Within hours, millions watched his defiance before the feed cut to static. Cern saw that clip later, played by his analysts as a curiosity. But as it ended, the chamber grew uncomfortably quiet. Jirek muttered, "They share their despair." Cern shook his head. "No, they share meaning. That is far more lethal." Meanwhile, in Alaska, Captain Riley Voss and her small survivor squad had joined what was left of a research base. Their supplies were gone, their communications patchy, yet they worked. Building something. Reeves crouched beside a heap of scavenged electronics. "You sure this'll work?" Riley smirked. "No, that's why it probably will." They were wiring an old weather station to hijack Vorr signals. If they could send one human broadcast through alien channels even for a moment, the world would see that Earth still breathed. Lightning crackled over the horizon, alien bombardment miles away. The wind reeked of metal and ozone. Reeves asked softly, "Why do you think they're doing this? They could have just wiped us out from orbit." Riley didn't look up. "Because they don't understand us. Not yet." That night, as the storm raged, their makeshift transmitter blinked to life. A pulse, then a hum. Riley pressed record. Her voice was low, steady, almost calm. "To whoever's listening, this is Captain Riley Voss, U.S. Air Defense. We're still here, if you can hear this fight, not for victory and for each other. Because if they want our planet, they'll have to bury it with us." She sent the signal. It jumped frequency. Once, twice, then vanished. On board Eclipsera, alarms blared. Unauthorized broadcast detected. Jirek snapped, "Source? Unknown, origin scrambled." Cern turned slowly. "Play it." The transmission echoed through the ship, Riley's voice filling the alien bridge. The translation algorithm strained, but her tone needed no translation. Raw defiance. Hope carved into sound. When the message ended, no one spoke. Even Jirek's claws stilled. Finally, Cern said softly, "Mark this voice. I want her captured alive. Below, on the ground." The Vorr advance continued, but not as before. For the first time, hesitation crept into their movements. Reports came of ambushes, humans striking from smoke and ruin, vanishing again. A pattern emerged. They fought not to win, but to bleed time. Every delay mattered. Every hour of resistance forced the Vorr fleet to burn more fuel, stretch more resources. Jirek studied the projections. At this rate, victory will take months. Cern's gaze stayed on the blue curve of Earth. Or never. Then came the first true shock. A Vorr transport, descending over Siberia, was struck, not by a missile, but by something far stranger. A human experimental jet, outdated, unarmed, rigged with explosives, had rammed it head-on. The explosion split the night sky. The recording spread like wildfire through human and Vorr channels alike. The humans called it the falling star. The Vorr called it madness. Incarnate. But even Cern, watching that flaming wreck spiral into the clouds, could not look away. What kind of species uses itself as a weapon? He whispered. Jirek's voice trembled for the first time, one that values meaning over survival. CERN looked at him sharply. And that, Commander, is a species that cannot be conquered. Far below, in the ice and ruin of Alaska, Riley Voss watched the burning streak fade across the sky. She didn't know it yet, but her broadcast had reached farther than any human signal before it. Across the galaxy, in distant sectors, other civilizations intercepted fragments of her voice. And in silent awe they whispered, "The humans fight the Vorr, and they do not kneel." For the first time in Vorr history, their invasion had become a warning to others. The sky bled that night, but not just for Earth. It bled for every empire that believed it could crush the human spirit. By the seventh day, the Vorr expected silence. They had scorched the cities, silenced the skies, buried oceans in fire. Yet when the smoke cleared, they heard drums, not instruments, hearts, millions of them, beating in sync across a dying planet that refused to surrender. Humanity had learned something new. Fear was fuel. Captain Riley Voss crouched inside the remains of an old hydro station, her fingers raw from cold and exhaustion. The transmitter she'd built days ago now lay dead, but her message still echoed everywhere. Every resistance cell she'd never met fought in her name. Not because she was a hero, but because she was proof. Reeves leaned against the wall, loading a battered rifle. "We've got Vorr scanners sweeping east. They're closing in." Riley exhaled slowly. "Good. Let them come." Her eyes glowed with the kind of determination that made even silence sound like defiance. On the Vorr flagship, the storm of confusion grew. "Sector 4 down," one officer reported. "Supply convoys ambushed." "Drones hacked." "Hacked?" Jirek snarled. "By primitives?" "Yes, Commander. They repurposed our captured tech using..." The analyst paused, disbelief in her voice. "Using car batteries." CERN turned sharply. "Explain." "They link energy sources manually. Crude, yet effective. Improvised weapons. They convert everything, vehicles, turbines, even toys, into power cells." A silence settled over the command deck. Jirek hissed, "They wage war with junk." CERN's mandibles flexed.
"No, they wage war with imagination. Reports came from across the planet. Entire Vorr squads disappearing in forests.
Ships falling from the sky caught in unpredicted storms. Sabotage everywhere. Invisible hands in the chaos. For the first time in centuries, the Vorr chain of command fractured. Jirek demanded full orbital bombardment. "End this farce. Reduce the surface to dust." CERN turned away, his voice quiet. "If we destroy them all, we prove we feared them. The galaxy is watching, Commander." He didn't add the second truth, so was he. Meanwhile, across the ruins of Europe, a counteroffensive began. Human engineers, hackers, soldiers, and even farmers banded together, united by rage and faith. They called themselves the Ember Line. Their strategy was reckless. Born from desperation and genius, they lured Vorr units into electromagnetic storms. Using lightning as a weapon, they jammed comms with music, symphonies, screams, laughter, until the alien helmets cracked from feedback, and above it all, Riley's broadcast replayed on repeat. "If they want our planet, they'll have to bury it with us." Her words became a war cry. Jirek stared at the reports in disbelief. How do they coordinate with no command structure? "Emotion," CERN replied simply. "They are not a hierarchy. They are a wildfire." He turned toward the stars, his reflection cold and uncertain. "You can contain logic. You cannot contain chaos. Back on Earth, the Ember Line executed their most daring move yet. Hidden deep beneath the frozen ground, engineers reactivated an abandoned orbital launcher, a relic from humanity's early space age. Their plan: hijack a Vorr reactor core and send it back to orbit aimed straight at the enemy fleet. When Reeves heard it, he laughed. "You're insane," Riley smiled, eyes glinting. "We learned from the best. When bears don't plan, they survive." That night, under an aurora scarred red by plasma, they moved, silent, determined. The Vorr patrols never saw them coming. By dawn, the humans had captured a damaged Vorr core. They worked feverishly to stabilize it. Crude tools, shaking hands, frostbitten fingers. Pressure's climbing, Reeves shouted. Hold it steady, Riley yelled back. If we can get this thing 10 kilometers up, it'll light the sky. Light it or destroy it? Riley grinned. Same difference. They triggered the launcher. The reactor screamed skyward, a trail of blue fire slicing through clouds. Moments later, it detonated high in orbit. A burst of light so bright it outshone the sun for 3 full seconds. The shockwave crippled 2 Vorr ships and fried their navigation arrays. Earth's night turned to day. Humans across the world looked up, believing for the first time that victory was possible. On board Eclipsera, chaos erupted. Jirek shouted orders. Shields failing. We're exposed! CERN stood still, watching the flaming wreckage drift across the void. The remains of 2 mighty warships brought down by a species without spaceflight. His voice was a whisper, more to himself than anyone else. They struck the sky with their bare hands. Jirek turned to him. We can still win this, my lord. CERN looked back, slowly shaking his head. Perhaps, Commander, but we have already lost something far greater. In the silence that followed, across the broken world below, humans did not cheer. They simply breathed. For the first time in history, the invincible Vorr bled, and blood in every language meant the same thing, and the gods could die. That night, as snow fell over Alaska, Riley Voss stood beneath the ruined sky, watching debris streak like falling stars. Reeves limped beside her. He asked softly, You think they'll leave now? She shook her head. No, but they'll start to understand why they should. The wind howled through the wreckage, carrying the faint scent of ozone and ash, and something new. Hope. Silence is rare in war. But on the 8th day, it fell across the galaxy. Every Vorr channel went dark. Every broadcast stopped. Only one message remained, a faint human voice repeating through the static over and over. We're still here. Inside the Vorr flagship Eclipsera, the tension had become airless. Commander Jirek stormed into the command chamber, claws sparking against metal. Our fleets are crippled, our drones malfunctioning, our warriors demoralized. All because you hesitated. Archlord CERN stood unmoved, his gaze fixed on Earth's swirling clouds. You mistake caution for fear, Commander. Jirek snarled. Fear is all I smell on this ship. You pity them. Enough. The single word silenced the room. CERN turned, eyes glowing faintly under the biolights. You speak of pity? No, I study them because I must. They are not a species of reason. They are a storm that learned to walk. He gestured toward the planet. If you truly believe them broken, then go and see. Jirek hesitated, his pride wrestling with his terror. Then he bowed sharply. Very well. I will descend to the surface. When I return, this world will kneel. CERN's voice was a whisper. Or it will change you. Hours later, Jirek's dropship knifed through the clouds, fire trailing from its hull. He landed in what had once been a city, now a maze of craters, fire, and snow. His scanners blinked erratically. Life signs everywhere. Human heat signatures moved through smoke like ghosts, uncoordinated, chaotic, unstoppable. From the shadows, voices echoed. Not words he understood, just sound, singing, soft, broken, defiant. Jirek stepped forward, uneasy. His translator flickered, catching fragments. Home of the brave. He froze. Humans were singing beneath bombardment. For the first time in his long career, Commander Jirek, destroyer of 8 worlds, felt small. A sound broke his trance. Movement behind him. He spun, weapon raised. But the figure emerging from the rubble wasn't a soldier. It was a woman, bloodied but upright, eyes sharp and calm. Captain Riley Voss Jirek's targeting system locked on, yet something in her expression made him pause. You came to finish it? She asked quietly. He tilted his head, translator humming. To observe. Before extermination, she laughed. Dry, fearless. You still think you can exterminate us? Look around, Shiny. You've burned our cities, poisoned our air, killed our families, and somehow we're still talking. What does that tell you? Jirek's claws twitched. That you are irrational. Exactly, she stepped closer. We don't die clean. We haunt the things that kill us. For a moment, neither moved. Then her voice softened. Why do you fight us anyway? You could have taken our resources. You could have ignored us, so why? Jirek's jaw tightened. Because your existence challenges order. You are chaos embodied. You threaten the foundation of civilization. Riley smiled faintly. Maybe your civilization was built too fragile then. The words hit harder than plasma. Before Zirek could respond, a shadow moved behind him. Reeves, battered but alive, rifle raised. Zirek turned just in time for Riley to shout, "Don't!" Too late. Reeves fired. The plasma bolt ripped through Zirek's shoulder. He collapsed, roaring in pain. "Fall back!" Riley ordered. But Reeves hesitated. "He's one of them." I said, "Fall back." They vanished into the ruins, leaving Zirek wounded, stunned, and something more. Awakened. He touched the scorched wound and stared at the blood glowing faintly between his claws. In that moment, he realized he wasn't just bleeding. He was alive, and humans had done that to him. Back aboard Eclipsera, Archlord Cern watched the telemetry from Zirek's armor flicker erratically. His aides spoke in hushed tones. "Commander Zirek is compromised, my lord. Should we retrieve him?" "No," Cern said quietly. "Let him see what victory truly costs." Then he turned toward the communication dais. "Open a channel to the human frequency that broadcasted before." The technician hesitated. "You mean, speak to them?" "Yes," Cern's tone was cold steel. "Let them hear the voice of their conqueror." Minutes later, every remaining radio on Earth crackled to life. The voice that emerged was deep, alien, resonant, like thunder in metal halls. "Humans, I am Archlord Cern of the Vorr Dominion. Your resistance defies reason. Your courage defies extinction. I wish to understand the source of your defiance before I end it." All across the planet, the message spread. Soldiers paused mid-battle. Civilians froze in disbelief. Riley heard it too through her damaged radio. She grabbed the mic, voice hoarse but unwavering. "This is Captain Riley Voss. You wanted to understand us. Then listen. We're not brave because we think we'll win. We're brave because we know we might not. And we fight anyway." A long silence followed. Then Cern's voice, softer now. "Your people fight like they were meant for war." Riley answered, "No, we fight because we were meant to live." On the Vorr bridge, that sentence lingered. Every officer heard it, and for the first time they did not cheer for conquest. They wondered. Cern closed his eyes, feeling the weight of centuries of dominance suddenly hollow. The humans had done what no weapon ever could, made him question himself. He turned toward the viewing pane one last time. Earth glowed below, wounded, scarred, burning, yet alive. He whispered to the stars, "If madness is survival, perhaps sanity is extinction." That night, Zirek limped through the ruins, his weapon gone, his armor cracked, his faith shattered. He looked up at the red sky and saw what his people could not: beauty and resistance. For the first time, he whispered a word forbidden in Vorr tongue: respect. And in the silence that followed, humanity's voice, carried by static, fire, and hope, echoed through the void, louder than ever. "We're still here," the war ended. Not with fire, but with silence. A silence that rolled across space like a storm breaking its own echo. The Vorr armada hung above Earth, scarred and dim. Their ships no longer gleamed. Their formation had broken. Below them, the blue planet burned. But it breathed. Every Vorr officer on the flagship waited for Archlord Cern's order, to annihilate, to retreat, to decide what history would call this moment. But Cern said nothing. He stood before the viewport, watching a wounded world that had refused to die. "Archlord," said a trembling voice behind him. "Commander Zirek's signal has returned. He requests audience." Cern turned. "Bring him." Moments later, the doors hissed open. Zirek stepped in, armor shattered, one arm bound in human cloth. His claws were bare. His weapon gone, he walked with pain and purpose. Gasps rippled through the bridge. No Vorr had ever returned from defeat without execution awaiting them. But Cern raised a hand. "Let him speak." Zirek's voice was hoarse, unsteady. "My lord, I have seen their cities. They're dead. Their eyes. We cannot conquer this world." The room froze. Cern's mandibles flexed. "Explain." Zirek took a breath. "You told me to witness them. I did. I saw a child share water with an enemy soldier. I saw a dying man laugh at death. I saw a woman face me without fear, even as her world fell apart." He looked up, meeting Cern's gaze. They fight with purpose we do not understand. To destroy them would be to destroy what makes us. Remember, we are alive. Silence. Thick. Electric. Then Jirek placed something on the floor, a fragment of metal, burned and bent, a human knife. CERN recognized it at once, the blade Riley Voss had driven into Jirek's eye. She spared me, Jirek said softly, so that I could tell you what no Vorr has ever heard. They do not fear us. They pity us. For a long moment no one spoke. Then a voice from the ranks whispered, trembling, blasphemy. But another voice, and quieter, older, and said untruth. The words spread. Echoing down the corridors, a virus of thought no weapon could stop. CERN turned slowly to face his officers. His voice was calm, deliberate, weighted with centuries. For eons we conquered because we believed order was strength. But today we met chaos, and it endured. He looked back at Earth. If the Vorr wished to survive, we must learn from what we sought to erase. Jirek bowed his head. Then what do we do, my lord? CERN's eyes narrowed. We listen. Down below in the ruins of Alaska, Captain Riley Voss stood beneath the fractured sky, unaware that her voice had silenced a galactic empire. Her radio crackled, faint static, then a strange tone. Not human. Not hostile. A deep voice, alien and deliberate, spoke across every surviving frequency. Humans of Earth. This is Archlord CERN of the Vorr Dominion. The war is over. You have won nothing. Yet taught us everything. Riley froze. Reeves stared at her, jaw slack. We came to claim your world, the voice continued, but we have found something greater. The meaning of life we lost long ago. We withdraw, not out of mercy. Out of respect, Riley stepped forward, gripping the radio. Her voice shook. If you mean it, then don't forget us. Don't erase what you saw. CERN's reply came softly. We could not forget, even if we tried. When the Vorr Armada finally turned away, millions on Earth watched from the ashes, a silent migration of stars leaving their sky. But the story didn't end there. The Vorr didn't vanish into darkness. They carried something with them, humanity's madness, courage, and contradiction, like a spark trapped in cold metal hearts. In time, that spark would ignite empires. It would reach worlds that had forgotten how to dream. It would remind civilizations why they feared and admired the species called human. Years later, a transmission reached Earth, a faint signal encoded in Vorr frequency, but unmistakably human in tone. To the ones who fight without reason, to the creatures who turn death into meaning, we see you now, the stars will not forget. Archlord CERN, long retired, gazed upon the endless void from his solitary vessel. He often replayed the same recording, the footage that had started everything. A man fighting a bear, bare hands, broken bones, laughing through blood. CERN's reflection shimmered on the screen. That was the moment, he whispered, when the universe changed. He turned off the display and looked toward a distant blue dot glowing faintly in the dark. If they ever leave that planet, he murmured, may the galaxy be ready. Back on Earth, Captain Riley Voss sat alone beside a dying campfire. Snow drifted through the trees. The war was over, yet its ghost lingered in every breath. Reeves approached quietly. Think they'll come back? She smiled faintly. Maybe, but next time they'll knock. They both laughed, softly, tiredly, beautifully human. Above them, the night sky shimmered, not with plasma or debris, but with stars unscarred at last. The same stars that had watched the fall and rise of a world that refused to kneel. In the archives of the Vorr Dominion, the Earth campaign was recorded not as defeat, but as a single line written in their ancient script. They fought the inevitable, and the inevitable lost.